Hi again, it's Mrs. Pearlstein, and now we're going to look at an example of finding trig ratios when two sides are given, not all three sides. So if we're looking at the diagram, here's the angle theta that we're talking about, and if you look directly across from that angle, that side length is 12, and that is the side that's opposite. And we also know this side has a length of 5, and that is next to the angle. So this is the adjacent side. And we are not given the hypotenuse. So the very first thing we need to do before we can find all six of these trig ratios is notice we do need the hypotenuse in 4 of them. So we have to figure out what the hypotenuse is. So we notice that, of course, this is a right triangle. And if it's a right triangle, then we can use the Pythagorean theorem. And the Pythagorean theorem just tells us that the length of the hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum of the squares of the legs. So hypotenuse is what we're looking for. So we're calling that C. And that's equal to the two sides, squaring them first and then adding them together. So it would be 5 squared plus 12 squared, and that's 25 plus 144, which is 169. So we know the hypotenuse squared is 169. If I take the square root of both sides, I get plus or minus the square root of 13. That's the algebraic solution. But since we're talking about the length of the side of a right triangle, of course we only need the positive solution. So the length of the hypotenuse is the square root of 13. So now we can quickly go through and find all 6 of the trig ratios. The sine is opposite over hypotenuse. The cosine is adjacent over, oops, I forgot the square root of 13. It's not the square root of 13. Oh my, it is just 13. What was I thinking? So it's 5 over 13. And the tangent is opposite over adjacent. And the cosecant is the hypotenuse over the opposite side. And the secant is the hypotenuse over the adjacent side. And the cotangent is the adjacent side over the opposite side. So just for one final remark, again, notice the sine and the cosecant are reciprocals of each other, and the cosine and the secant are reciprocals, and the tangent and the cotangent are reciprocals of each other. So that's what we do to find all 6 trig ratios when two sides are given, and don't make that mistake.